Hello guys, welcome back to another Android application development tutorial. In this video, we are going to learn about how to create an Android application with user signup and user login. For this application, we use a remote server with MySQL database on it. We use Retrofit POST request. Here is the application. This is the login page of this application. First, we are going to create a new user. So click the new user sign up, enter username, enter password for the user, enter name of the user. Now click register. So here the registration success. Now I can log in. But here I try to register the same user again. So before going to register the same user again, we can check the database. This is the table user info. Now there is no information available. We can check the database. So here, this is the newly created user, username prabish@abc.com, password 123. Now I try to register the same user again, prabish@abc.com, enter some password, enter name of the user. So this username already available in the database. We try to register. But this time it shows user already exists in the database. Now we can test the login section. prabish@abc.com. But here I enter some wrong password and try to log in. So this time login failed. Now I am going to enter the correct password. Password 123 and login. So this time login success. This is the name of the user. Now I open the application again. Enter the name of the user, username prabish@abc.com, enter password 123. This time I click the checkbox remember me and click login. So here I successfully log in. Now I remove the application from foreground. Now open the application again. So this time the login page is not appear. Instead we directly guide to the home page of the application. So now I click logout. Now I remove the application from foreground. Now I open the application again. So this time again the application shows the login page. So in this application we learn about how to perform user login and registration using Retrofit with MySQL database. Also we learn about how to save the user login status. So before going to start the app development, we need to set up the server-side components. We have to create the database. We have to create the needed PHP scripts for perform user registration and user login. Now go to hosting, go to manage website, now select database manager,
So in my hosting, I already created a database with the database name testdb. Here is the database username. Now go to PHP MyAdmin. So this is our database. Our database contains one table called the user info. So our table contains 4 columns: ID, username, password and name. So now we need to upload the needed scripts in the server. So here I already create the needed scripts for the application. So first I will show you a PHP script called init.php. This is the content of this file init.php. The purpose of this file is to establish a connection to the database. Here we have variables like username, password, database name, host name. We establish a connection to the database by using this function MySQL connect. For this function, we have to pass the host name, username, password and database name. After established connection, we save the connection to the variable called con. Now our second PHP script is register.php. So by using this PHP script, user can perform new user registration. So for this file, we need 3 variables. We need 3 data from the application: username, password and name of the user. Here we use the HTTP POST method. Now we need to establish connection to the database. So we attach the file init.php. So here we test if the connection success. Otherwise, if the connection failed, we create a variable called status and specify value as failed. Here we return a JSON object with one property status. And if the connection is success, first we have to check whether the user already available in the database. So create an SQL query, select star from user info where username equal to username. And we execute the query using the function MySQL query. And if the number of rows of that particular query is greater than 0, that means the user already available in the database. In this case, we specify variable status is equal to OK. Now create another variable result code equal to 0, and we send back a JSON object with the 2 properties, status and result code. So if the user already available in the database, the value for result code is 0. Otherwise, that means user not exist in the database. We are going to insert the new user to the database. So here the SQL query is insert into user info. We insert name, username and password to our table. Here also we execute the query, and after successful execution of the query, we create a variable status is equal to OK, and here the variable result code equal to 1. And we send back the JSON object with the 2 properties, status and result code. So if the user registration success, value for result code is 1. Otherwise, we send back a JSON object with 1 property, status, that is failed. So this PHP script perform the new user registration. Now I will show you the PHP script for performing login. So this is the PHP script for perform user login. Here we get username and password from the device. Here also we establish connection to the database. First check if the connection success. Otherwise, we send back a JSON object with the 1 property, status, that is failed. If the connection success, we execute the SQL query, select name from user info where username is equal to username and password equal to password. We execute the SQL query, and if the number of rows of the query is greater than 0, that means user login success. In that case, we fetch the row, we create a variable status is equal to OK, we set the result code equal to 1. Also we fetch the name of the user. We send back this information in the form of a JSON object, with three properties: status, result code, and name of the user. So here, if the login success, value for result code is equal to 1. Otherwise, status is equal to OK, result code is equal to 0. And we send back the JSON object with the two properties, status and result code. So this is the PHP script for perform user login. So here I have two HTML pages for testing login and registration. So now we need to upload these files to our web hosting. So go to our web hosting, go to File Manager and upload files. So this is the File Manager page of my web hosting. Go to Public HTML. In Public HTML, here I create a folder called Login Test. Now open that folder. So now there is no files available in this folder. Now I am going to upload some files. I select all the files and upload. Now all the files uploaded successfully to the web host. So before going to use these PHP scripts with our application, we are going to test it. So we are going to test it using these two files, testlogin and testyregister.html. So now go to the home page. Open website settings. Select general. So this is the address of our free website. So copy this URL. So now here we create a folder called a login test. So first we are going to test the registration. So testyregister.html. So create a username. Specify the username as pradesh@abc.com. Now specify password. Now specify the name of the user. Now click register. So this is the response from server. This is a JSON object with the two properties, status and result code. So here the result code is 1. That means the user registration is success. You can check our database. So now in our table we insert a new user. The password is password. Here is the name of the user. Now come back to the page again. Now I try to register the same user again. So in this case, this user is already available in the database. Try to register. So this is the response from server. This is also a JSON object with the two properties, status, and in this case result code is 0. That means the user already registered with the database. Now we can test the login. Sorry, it is test login.html. Now we can test login. This is the username. First I enter correct username and password. Now try to login. So this is the response from server. So here login success. We have a JSON object, status OK. The result code equal to 1. That means login success, and here is the name of the user. Now I try to enter a wrong password and try to log in. In this case, we have a JSON object response with the status OK and result code is 0. That means the user login failed.
Okay, let's come to the application development. So first I'm going to add the internet permission. So open manifest folder, open Android manifest.xml. use permission. Here we need the internet permission. Now within the application tag, I'm going to add one more attribute called the users clear text traffic into true. Now we need to add the needed dependency for this application. So open build.cradle file. For this application, I'm going to use the data binding library. So within the Android tag, add this one, build features data binding equal to true. Now sync project. So here project sync finished successfully. Now we need to add the needed dependency for this application. So here I add all the needed dependency for this application. This is the material library dependency. Here is the retrofit, and here is the JSON, retrofit JSON converter. So here there is a new version is available. Now there is 1.2.0 is available. Now sync project again. Now the project sync finished successfully. So first we can code the network part of the application. For that, here I am going to create some packages. Create a package called activities. You can place all the activities within this package. Now create another package called models. We can put all the model class in this package. So I put the main activity within the activities package. Now in the model class, I'm going to create a model package. I'm going to create a new Java class called API Response. So this class is for handle the response from the server. So in this class, I'm going to create some variables. First one is status. This variable is for receiving the status of the request. Now create another variable called result code. It is an integer variable. Result code. Now create another variable called a string variable, and that is for handle the name of the user. If the registration success, if the login success, we need to retrieve the name of the user. For that purpose, here I use the variable name. Okay. So now for proper mapping of retrofit, here I am going to use the serialized name attribute annotation. Serialized name for status, it is status. Now for the result code, the parameter name is result code. Yes, correct. Now for the name of the user, serialized name. Okay. Now we need the getter methods for these three variables. So I'm going to add the getter methods. Select all these three variables. So this is the model class for handle the API response. Now we can create classes for retrofit. So for retrofit, I'm going to create another package. Create another package. Retrofit util. I name the package as retrofit util. First, I'm going to create a class for the retrofit client. So I name it as API client. So in this class I am going to add two variables. First one is base URL. This is the base URL of the server, and second variable is a variable for retrofit. So now for this class I am going to create a method called response. The return type of this method is retrofit get API client. So here check the condition if retrofit equal to null. In that case we need to initialize that variable. Retrofit equal to new retrofit builder dot base URL and add the converter factory JSON converter factory dot create, and finally call the build method on it. From this method return variables for retrofit. So now we can create the interface for retrofit. So create another class in retrofit util API interface. This is an interface. So create the first method for perform user sign in. Now specify the return type of this method. So here the return type is API response. So for this method we have to pass three parameters. First one is username, second one is password, and last one is name of the user. Okay, now we need to specify the API endpoint. So here we use the POST request. So our endpoint is register.php. Okay. Also add one more annotation from URL encoded. Now specify the field names. So at field for username we have to use the variable name as username. Now for password and final one is the name of the user. Name. So this method is for perform the user registration. Now we need another method for perform user login. Perform user login. Here also specify the return type of this method. API response. Now specify the endpoint, API endpoint. Here the endpoint is login.php. Here also use the annotation from URL encoded. Now specify the parameters for this method. Username and password. So here also specify the field names. Username and for password it is password. Okay, so in this application we use these two endpoints, register.php and login.php. Now we can start the user interface of the application. So in this application, now we have only one activity, that is the main activity. We are going to use the main activity as the login page. Now we need another two activities, one for the user registration and second for the home page. So now here I am going to create two activities. Select an empty activity. This is the register activity. Now create one more activity for the home page. Home activity. So this is the register activity and here is the home activity. Now I put these activities within the activity package. So we have three activities: main activity, that is the login page, home activity and register activity. Now we can add the needed layout for the application. First we can add the layout for the login page. So open the resource folder, open layout, activity main. This is the layout for the login page. I already created the layout for the login page. So this is the layout for the login page. Here we have a text view for display the app name. Here we have an edit text for accept the username with ID txt username. This is the edit text for accept user password with ID txt user password. This is the checkbox for remember the user login section. And this is the login button, and here is the new sign up button. Here we have a progress bar for display the progress. Here is a text view that simply display please wait. Okay. So this is the layout for the login page. Now we can add the layout for the registration page, new user registration page. So this is the layout for the new user registration. Here is the edit text for enter username with ID txt username. This is the edit text for enter password. This is the edit text for the enter name of the user. Here is the registration button, user registration button. Here again we have a progress bar for display the progress of the registration. Here we have a text view that simply display please wait. Okay. So now we can add the layout for the home page. So if the user successfully login, we lead the user to the home page. So now this is the layout for the home page. So in home page we have name of the application, we have a welcome message. So here we have a text view that display a message welcome username. So if the user login success, we retrieve the name of the user from server and we display the welcome message. And here is a button for perform logout. So these are the layout needed for this application. Now we can start coding. So before going to start coding, I am going to run the project. So here we have an error. The invoke customs are only supported starting with Android O. So we have to fix this issue. So for fixing this issue, open builder.gradle file. Within the Android tag, we need to add some lines. So at these segments of lines, compile options, source compatibility Java version 1.8, target compatibility Java version 1.8. Add these lines. Now sync again. The project sync finishes successfully. Now run the project. Okay, now the project available on this application. So here we have an action, we have a toolbar in the layout. Also we have a default action bar for this application. So now we are going to remove the default action bar from the application. Instead of the default action bar, we are going to add the toolbar. So open values folder, open styles.xml. So this is the current style of the application. So light.dark action bar. I am going to change that one into light.no action bar. Okay, so now open the activity main.xml. So here we already have a toolbar in the layout with ID my toolbar. So now we are going to add this toolbar as the supported action bar for this application. So now go to main activity. So in this project we are going to use the data binding library. We are not going to use the find view by ID method. So these layouts support data binding. So here the root element is a layout attribute. Here is the ending attribute. So if the root element is layout attribute, that layout support data binding. So now go to main activity, create variables for data binding. So here the layout name is activity main. So here the data binding class is activity main binding. I name it as main binding. So here there is no need of the set content view method. Instead, I am going to initialize that variable main binding equal to data binding util and call the set content view method. First parameter is context and second parameter is the layout file for this activity. There is activity main. Okay. Now we can set the support action bar for this application. So before going to do that, I run the project again. So here we remove the default action bar from the application. Here is the toolbar. Now we are going to set the toolbar as the supported action bar. So call the method set support action bar main binding dot my toolbar. So here you can see here we didn't use the find view by ID method. Instead we can directly use the variable name in the layout. Now we can set a title for the toolbar. So use the method get support action bar dot set title login page. So run the project again. Here is the name of the page. As you can see here, the data binding library is a very useful resource for an Android app developer. So first we can perform the new user sign up. So within the main activity, when user click the button, we need to go to the register activity. So main binding and our button name is bn sign up dot set on click listener. From here we need to start the sign up register activity. Start activity, new intent. First parameter is the context. Here it is main activity. And second parameter is the target activity class name. Here it is register activity dot class. Now open register activity. Open the layout for the register activity. This layout also supports data binding. Here is the toolbar. create variable for the data binding class, activity register binding. I name the variable as register binding. Now there is no need of the set content view method. Register binding equal to data binding util dot set content view. First parameter is the context, second parameter is the layout for the activity register. Now we can set the support action bar, register binding, it's my toolbar. Now we can set the title for the page. So get support action bar dot set the title, new user sign up. Okay, now we can test it. I run the project. Click the button. Here we come back to the new user sign up page. Now we can perform the new user sign up. So now we can start the new user sign up. For that, create a separate method. Perform sign up. Register binding .bn register. Set on click listener. Perform sign up. So here we can display the progress, sign up progress. So register binding, show progress dot set visibility into visible. Now I am going to create a separate method for display information to the user. Display user info. In this method need one parameter, say message. So here we are going to display the user information using a snack bar. So snack bar dot make. Now specify the layout for using the snack bar. So our layout header, our root element is a coordinator layout. So we can attach the snack bar to the coordinator layout. So register binding dot my coordinator layout. Second parameter is the message. Third parameter is the length of the message shown. So snack bar dot length short, and finally call the show method. Here, after display the user message, we are going to reset the password field on the layout. So register binding dot txt user password. Okay. Also, we are going to hide the user progress. Register binding dot show progress dot set visibility into gone. Now we are going to use invisible. Okay, so now we can perform the user registration. So first we can get the information from user name. Register binding dot txt username dot get text to string, password register binding txt password, where it is, txt user password, get text to string, and last one is name of the user, register binding dot txt name. Now we can perform user registration. So here the response handling is the API response. API client dot get API client. There is some mistake on the method. Check the API client method. Yeah, this should be a static method. Now get API client dot create API interface dot class and call the method perform sign in, user sign in. First parameter is the username, second parameter is the password, and last one is the name of the user. Now we can implement the callback response of the request. Now we can handle the response from server. So first we can check if response.code equal to 200, that means the request success or not, else we can display information to user. And display user info. Something went wrong. Here we are going to reset the password field of the registration form. So registration binding txt user password dot set the text. Okay. So if the response is okay, that means if the response code is 200, we are going to test other condition. If response dot body dot get status dot equals okay, otherwise we use the same error info. If that is also true, we are going to test other condition. If response dot body dot get result code equal to 1, if the result code is equal to 1, user registration success. Otherwise, that means if the response code is 2, the user already exists. So we are going to display user information. User already exists. And if the user registration success, we are going to display some information to the user using a toast. Registration success. Now you can log in. So if the user registration success, we need to get back to the login page. So for that, here I am going to override the onBytePressed method. Here I am going to call that method onBytePressed. After that, I am finished this activity. Now we can test the new user sign up. So I run the project. Now the project available on this virtual device. Click the new user sign up. So before going to perform new user sign up, we can check the database. Now there is one user available on the database. I delete that user. Now there is no information available on this table called the user info. Now we can perform the new user registration. Prabish@abc.com, that is the username. Password is password123. Now enter name of the user. Now perform the new user registration. Now here shows registration success, and now you can log in. Now we can check the database. So here the new user added successfully to this database. Username prabish@abc.com, password123, name of the user is Prabish RK. Now again I go to the new user sign up page. I try to register the same user again, prabish@abc.com. This user already available in the database. Enter some name of the user, Prabish. Okay, so this user already available in the database. Try to log in, try to register. So in this case, here we got a message, user already exists. So now we successfully finished the new user sign up page. Now we can start coding for the login page. Okay, now we can perform the user login. Close all these one. Our login page is main activity. So create a separate method for perform login. Now create the on-click listener for the login button. bn login. Perform login. So here we can display the progress, login progress dot set visibility into visible. Okay, so here also for display user information we can create a separate method, display user information with one parameter message. Display message using snack bar. Main binding, coordinator layout, message, snack bar dot length short and display it. Also we can disable the progress. So main binding to show progress dot set visibility into invisible. Now we can perform login. So before going to login, we need to get the username and password. Username, main binding, txt username dot get text. Now get the password. main binding dot txt user password get text to string. Okay, now we can perform the API call. So the response return type is API response, API client, get API client, create API interface dot class, and call the method perform login. Here two parameters needed. First one is username and second parameter is the password. So now this is the time to implement the callback methods of this API call. So call dot enqueue okay. So now we can handle the response from server. First we can check if the request is success or not if response dot code equal to 200. Otherwise display user information, something went wrong. Okay, this is the first condition. Now we can test the second condition. If response.body dot get status dot equals okay, else use the same situation, we use the same statement. So here we need to do one more thing, main binding to txt password, txt user password dot set to text. We can reset the password field. The same thing here also. Okay, so now if this one also true, we check other condition. If response dot body dot result code get result code equal to 1, that means login success. Otherwise we display the information to user. So if the status code is not equal to 1, that means login failed. So if the login success, we need to get the name of the user. Response dot body dot get name. Now we can go to the home page, home activity. So create an intent. No intent. So main activity dot this, and the target class name is home activity dot class. Now we can attach the name to this indent. Put extra name and pass the variable name. Now we can start that activity. Start activity, pass the indent. Also we can finish the login page. Now we need to display a welcome message for the user inside the home activity. So go to home activity. Here also data binding is need to be enabled. So private activity home binding and name it as home binding. home binding equal to data binding util dot set content view. This now specify layout activity home. Get the name from the intent. Get intent dot get string extra name. Now set the welcome message on the home page. So home binding dot txt user welcome dot set text welcome name. Okay, so now we can test the user login. Now we can test the user login. So I run the project. So we can check the database first. So in the database we have only one user with the username prabish@abc.com, password 123, and here the name of the user is prabish.k. Okay, so we are going to test it. So first here I am going to enter a wrong user information, a wrong password, and try to log in. So now here the login is failed. Now I am going to enter a correct username and password, prabish@abc.com. We can check it again, prabish@abc.com, and password is password 123. Password is password 123, and try to log in. So now the login is a success, and here is the welcome message for the user. Now we are going to learn about how to remember the user login. So if the user login for the first time, then there is no need to display the login page again. If the user log out, we can display the login page again. So now we are going to learn how to do that. So we are going to save the login session using SharePreferences API. So we are going to save the user login status using SharePreferences API. So for that we need some string resource. So open strings.xml, open editor, add a new string resource. First one is preference file key. Specify value for it, pref file key. Okay. Now add another string resource, pref is user login. Default value is user login. Now add one more string resource, pref name of user. Name of user. Okay. Now I am going to create another package. Create a package app util. In that package, create a new Java class called app config. So in this class I am going to create some variables. First one is context. Now create another variables for shared preferences. Now create a constructor with only one parameter, context. Now I am going to initialize the shared preferences from the constructor. Context dot get shared preferences. Context dot get string r dot string preference file key. Now also specify the mode of operation is the context dot mode private. It is not delete, it is get shared preferences. Yeah. Okay, now we can create another method for check whether user login or not. So create a variable called public boolean is user login. So return shared preferences dot get boolean context dot get string proof is user login. Now specify the default value for the operation. So here the default value is false. Now we need to create another method for update user login status. So public void update user login status. So here we need one parameter is a boolean value status. So now get some variables for editor, shared preferences editor, shared preference dot edit. Now editor dot put boolean context dot get string or dot string dot preference is user login and pass the value status. Now call the apply method on the editor. So here we save the user login status. Now we are going to create another method for save the name of the user. If the login success, we have to save the name of the user. So public void save name of user with one parameter, that is the name of the user. Here also we need some variables for editor. Shared preference dot edit editor dot put string context dot get string or dot string dot brief name of user. Now specify the default value. Sorry, not default value. Here it is the name of the user. Okay. Now save the data. Now we need to create another method for get the saved name of the user from the shared preferences API. So public string get name of user. So here return shared preferences dot get string context dot get string dot string dot name of user, and here specify the default value unknown. Okay. So we need these four methods. First one is user login. We use this method for check whether user login or not. This is for save the user login status. This is for save the name of the user, and this last method is for retrieve the saved name of the user. So now we are going to remember the user login. If user check the checkbox, we have to remember the user login. So now we are going to create a click listener for this checkbox. So go to main activity, create an onClick method for the checkbox. Checkbox click. So this is an onClick method, so this needs one parameter, is an object of view class. Now go to the layout file, open design, select the checkbox and search for onClick method. Select the method inside main activity. Now go to main activity, create some variables, create a boolean variable is remember user login. I put the value false for it. Now create another variable app config. Now first I am going to initialize the variable app config. New app config, pass the context. Now we need to know whether user select the checkbox or not. So go to this method. So here we are going to update the variable is remember user login. Use the parameter view. So this is a checkbox. So we typecast that one into a checkbox. On that variable, call the method is checked. Now go to the login section. So if the login success, we have to check whether user select the checkbox or not is remember login. If it is true, we have to save the user login. So app config dot update user login status into true. Also we need to save the username. Save username and pass the name of the user. Okay. Also when user open the application, we have to check whether user already login or not. That is the next step. So within onCreate method, we have to check it here. If app config dot is user login. If it is true, we have to move the user to the home page. So here we have to get the name of the user. So get it from the shared preference, get name of the user. Then we have to start the home activity. So we can use the same code. Okay. Now go to the home activity. So in home activity, we have inside home activity we have a sign out button, logout button. We can check the layout file. Activity home. So here we have a logout button available. So now we need to perform the user logout. So go to home activity. So home finding dot bn logout dot set onClick listener. Here also we need to create variables for app config. So if the user click the logout button, we have to update the user login status. App config dot is user update user login status into false. Also we need to start the login activity. So start activity, new intent, home activity.this, and login. Our target class is login activity, and target class is main activity. We can finish this activity. Okay, so now we can test it again. So I run the project. Enter a proper username, a valid username and password. prabesh@abc.com, that is the username. Password is password 123, that is the password. So here I check the checkbox, remember me, and try to log in. So now here the login success. So now I remove the application from foreground. Now I open the application again. So in this case the login page is not appear. Instead we are directly move it to the home page because we remember the login. So now I log out from the application. I remove the application from the foreground. Now open it again. So this time the login page again appear. So this is how we save the user login section. So this is how we create a simple login and registration application using Retrofit POST request. I hope you understand the concept of this tutorial. If you have any doubt or suggestion on this video, please mention it in the comment section below. If you find this video helpful, please share it for your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.